Like with Daniel Bryan going to New Japan, like that is any wrestling fan's wet dream.
I think it's hardcore wrestling fans' wet dream. It's our
yeah,
wet
that's what I mean. Like
it's like I'm like soaked right now. Like from that.
Welcome to the Bearhug Club, a pro wrestling podcast of positivity.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bearhug Club podcast, coming at you live once again through Wednesday Night Paw. It's Greg here, once again joined by Garrett and Jace. How's it going, my boys?
There we go.
Yeah, it's going. Things are going. There's I don't know if you guys have heard. I think some things happened in wrestling this week. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, it was a pretty big weekend. SummerSlam happened.
Of course, nothing bigger than SummerSlam.
No, Becky Lynch came back. It was good for about a minute, and then it wasn't. Brock came back, and he's got a new haircut.
Yep.
And NXT happened. Good
Of
show.
course, yeah.
Yeah.
NXT,
yeah. Oh,
brilliant.
And CM Punk came back.
What?
What? Now, I don't know how measurable pops really are technically, right? Because there's so many variables. The building matters.
Yeah.
Sometimes the biggest pop you could have is in the Electric Ballroom in Camden because it's quite a condensed space and the acoustics lend itself to that kind of crowd. Ultimately, you can have a big stadium and it doesn't sound as good, but obviously more people and it might be louder. However, that may be one of the loudest pop ever. Maybe.
Untouchable.
So much
I think
so,
that's
Guinness Book of World Records even weighed in and they tweeted like, that was a loud pop. That was a loud pop though, not gonna lie.
They were basically like, well,
definitely...
we can't measure this, but I mean, bloody hell, that was a big one.
That's the biggest pop I've heard since Edge came back.
Absolutely.
And that was loud.
Well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was loud.
I mean, like, the way to contrast it is, I mean, like, I got to a big thing with some people because I watched SummerSlam live and they were talking about Becky Lynch's pop being loud. Yeah, it was loud, but I mean, CM Punk's, you couldn't even hear his music. It was that loud. And I don't think there was any trickery there. I generally think the crowd were just going for it until they couldn't speak the next day.
Yeah. Like,
that's the kind of cheering that you usually hear at something like a festival, and the next day the person just can't talk anymore. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. I think everything about it was just kind of perfect. A lot of the takes coming back, pretty much everything's positive. If you take a negative from that debut, I don't think you like wrestling.
Oh, dude. You know it was big. You know it was big when Jim Cornette said, "It's not how I would book it. It was better."
Right.
And he's a man that's impossible to please. Like, even he thought it was good.
When the mountain of an ego says that he's no longer the peak, I mean, but like, I think just every aspect of it was pretty much done perfectly. And obviously you do have to compare it to other debuts of the weekend or other things that happened over the weekend, including Monday. For example, I think for the first time, they actually showed us production truck. They showed us production in AEW. Have you seen the production clip?
Yes, I have.
It's just simple behind the scenes stuff of him just like ready 10, go 10, ready 5, cut to 6, all this kind of stuff, right? And it shows it side by side with Punk. And it's just really simple. It's just, all right, crowd shot, Punk, wide shot, okay, back to this, back to that. And it just shows you, how quickly it's done. It's like, yeah, of course, that's what's happening. Then I then saw a few tweets down a clip of Miz attacking Morrison on Monday Night Raw, and it was so quickly cut that I just imagined the guy in the back going like, okay, 10 cuts, 10, 10, 10 5, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 1, 3, 3, 3, like some kind of like a cattle auctioneer or something. And it was just like, if you compare the two, it's painful, but no, the Punk debut was top notch. Everything about it, the not announcing him, but not, you know, like diminishing the rumors or whatever, just letting it happen. It's you know, it'll go down as probably one of the best debuts ever, perhaps.
Do you think it's gonna go down as like this generation's Jericho debut on Raw?
Oh,
as being like that, it's going to be that iconic debut and entrance, and
because
that's the debut. It's like it's that kind of debut anyway. Because like obviously you have big debuts in the Attitude Era. Like my personal favorite is Kane. But for that kind of entrance where it's just someone coming out, not during a match, not a run-in, not anything like that, just coming out through the curtain, music playing, like that's the only thing I can really think to compare it to, is that Jericho debut.
No, I think you're right. I think this will be that debut that like 10, even 20 years, maybe even sooner than that. People like us or on YouTube will be saying, "Oh, CM Punk's debut in AEW was my favorite debut."
Yeah,
and I think they'll put it up there with Jericho and Kane. I mean, obviously,
yeah.
wherever it'll go with them, who's to say? Give it time, and it could just overlap them. But I think it will absolutely.
I think a lot of it. I think a lot of it does come from hindsight. I think a lot of people's debuts are inferred slightly by what happens next. For example, I don't think we talk about Jericho's debut as much if he wasn't as much of a GOAT as he is. Do I think that CM Punk won't make an impact? No, I think he will, to be honest with you. Especially even his first match, top notch, you know, as simple as it is, as just he looks to the rafters and Sting and Darby are just there doing Sting and Darby things. It's just just magic.
I loved it so much because you could tell Darby was trying to do the sulky boy thing, but there was just such a big smile on his face. He just couldn't contain himself. That grin was just kept creeping through.
Well, because I mean, you take probably the average age between WWE's locker and AEW's locker. I'd have to really look that up. I'd assume AEW is younger. However, it's probably more just they use their younger talent, right?
Yeah.
I am gonna go out on a limb and say that a lot of the talent on a little bit crackly. A lot of the talent on AEW were inspired by Punk, and you know that's not me just making that up. If you Google MJF next to CM Punk, you will see a young MJF hanging out with CM Punk. Fresh off of his TV debut. Well, actually, no, it was a bit after that, where he did the operatic singing.
Absolutely. No, I think, as I've been saying, everything about was so perfectly done. There was an interview that came out today with Tony Schiavone, or just something he said. He said, this will show you the difference between AEW, how AEW does things and WWE does stuff. It was like an article saying, this is what Punk was told to say. All it literally was, he was just given a bullet point saying, mention the Derby match. Everything else was completely him. Whereas with WWE, he would have been given a 10-page thing and said, you have to do that pretty much verbatim.
And he would have went, thanks.
I'm going again. Peace.
Like that's the thing. Like WWE, we all know promos are heavily scripted, except for a couple of people, like your Cena's, your Kevin Owens, Becky Lynch, and even now Roman Reigns.
Yeah,
it's said that he doesn't get he gets his script, but he just says, "Nah, I'm just gonna." He'll do what Punk did which I think Punk might have been exaggerating when he said he just ripped it up. He probably read it and then was like, right, well, I'll take this point, and just made it his own. I think Roman will be doing the same. Whereas in AEW, they trust their talkers to be able to talk. And if anyone thinks that they can script a promo for CM Punk better than CM Punk can make up on the spot, then you're a fool.
No, exactly. I mean, that's why. I mean, I think a lot of people were worried. Was he still going to be the talker that he was? I mean, I knew he would smash it out the park, and I think for me it was just that amazing line of I left professional wrestling in August 2005, and I've come back to professional wrestling in August 2021. It was just beautiful. I mean, that was like the perfect way. So it wasn't just him completely bashing his former employer for like a long promo. It was just a simple little line where he was like, well, that's kind of what I thought with what I did then, and this is what I'm hoping to do now. It kind of set everything to right for myself.
Yeah, I've got his script up here. It's a lovely kind of poster by @3Beat Designs, which is
I've seen it. It's
that
wonderful.
one.
Yeah.
Make it into merch. Why not? He is. I don't know entirely his background. I'm gonna go out on a limb as someone who also did theater in school. I think he's probably a bit of a tiny bit of a theater kid. He's not, I mean, he kind of speaks almost Shakespearean in the way he talks. He will like in his monologues. It's almost as if he foreshadows what he's going to say. He will end it on the strongest notes. He will take you on this emotional roller coaster. I will do a big old what we'll do. We'll do a video essay. Well, that's what we'll do. We'll do a video essay on why some promos work and why some promos don't. We'll compare them to like Shakespeare, and we'll compare them to movies and shit like that. But it was just so, like, it just felt so honest.
Yeah.
It was the line that's like, I am back for you, but don't get me wrong, I am back for me. There is so much young talent that I wish I was working with 10 years ago, that I sat on the sidelines and I was, why am I not working with them? Well, I'm here and I've got the time. It's like, just gimme. And then just ending it on something as simple as I'm back.
Yeah.
It's fucking great.
I think the reason why it went so well is because, like, I think we all pretty much knew he was going to be there, even though it still was surreal when I was watching it live when he came out. It just still didn't feel real, but we knew he was. I think the worry was, what was he going to be like when he gets here? Because a lot of people would have just assumed he was just doing this for the money, getting the paycheck, and he was going to be gone within a year. It was going to be like the quickest deal ever. But no, he basically put everything right, saying it looks like he's completely got his passion back. It's slowly getting there. We knew a place like that could do it for him. And he's on a long-term deal as well. And from the sound of it, it's not going to be him just doing sporadic appearances. He's going to be at Dynamite tapings. He's going to be at Rampage ones. He's going to be putting the work in. And we're going to see plenty of wrestling matches in what will probably be like him putting a good full stop on his career rather than having left it in such bad blood.
Yeah, I think the thing with Punk, like with him coming back at this point, like you said, there's so much young talent that he wants to work with. I think Punk's the kind of guy, even like having been away from the business for so long, he is, apart from Jericho really, AEW doesn't have that star maker. That star maker of a veteran. You've got people like a Kenny and a Cody and Dustin, but no one of the international caliber of Jericho and Punk. Like, I think Punk will be sort of like an Undertaker figure, like the saying in WWE is Undertaker. If you can hang with the Undertaker for a segment or two, you've made it. If you can hang with Punk, you've made it. Especially if you can keep up with him on the mic.
Undoubtedly. Like, I think he is purely there. Obviously, he's going to have like some big moments, big matches, which we'll get onto what we want to see. But I think ultimately, because the guy he is, he's pretty much there now to not only work with these younger guys, but to set them up for future success. And I think
Yeah,
there'll be
that's
a
what I
lot
mean.
of people.
Be a star maker.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's already got to have an eye on a lot of people, and he's going to be already thinking, right, well, what can I do with you, and how am I going to help you get to that next level?
I think it's going to be interesting. This is coming from someone who is my favorite wrestler is CM Punk. My real Mount Rushmore of wrestling is all 4 of them are CM Punks.
Yeah.
My one issue is that CM Punk rose to stardom and sort of cut his teeth on being this counterculture, Rage Against the Machine type. And just by essence of being in AEW, he still is that. However, I don't know. It would be very interesting. And I think, given the freedom, he could definitely create these stories with people. But for example, if he's against an MJF, they're both great talkers and that would be fun. However, I'm both excited and scared that I don't know where the story would come from and where it would go, because it's like he doesn't really have a machine to rebel against right now that I know of. I doubt he's going to be cutting pipe bombs on Tony Khan sitting and smiling next to him with an ice cream bar. So we'll see. I don't think we'd probably see another pipe bomb because there's not much to pipe bomb. Right? There's not much that needs exploding now that it's already kind of crumbling over in the other on Mondays and on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he doesn't need to do that. I mean, I think that's what I know. You're right. A lot of people did follow CM Punk because that was what got him to popularity, was being that Rage Against the Machine figure. But then I think we'll see a completely new and different side to him now. He's in a mainstream wrestling environment where he's basically doing everything that he wants wrestling to do. Like AEW is the place where is that where he wanted WWE to be back in 2011. So I think the only time we'll see proper Venom is when he is in certain storylines. But I don't think we're going to really see much of the way of the typical pipe bomb because he hasn't got anything to be pissed off at the moment, unless he wants to take digs at his former employer. But I think they're not everyone's about that in AEW. He'll just want to be like, well, I'm focused on this and I'm focused on this company. I don't want to keep mentioning that employer anymore.
Yeah. I think the closest thing we might get to a pipe bomb is during a storyline where he will very much muddy the waters between what remains of kayfabe and reality. Like if we're having say he's having a feud with Jericho, like he'll bring up the fact that Jericho's wife was at the Trump riots, like that. I think that's the closest thing we're going to get. But
sure.
So I don't know if we're going to get an actual pipe bomb.
One thing with him as well. One very interesting take I've seen is that he's in the late HBK stages and Triple H stages where it's like, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, you were beloved and one of the best. However, you did a couple of dickish things here and there, burned a few bridges and whatnot. However, now, much like HBK, Triple H, you're coming back and creating this environment for younger talent and everything. It's like the twilight years of the career, and it's hopefully seems to be doing it well. So fingers crossed that it goes to plan. I
think it'll be very similar to when HBK came back in 2002. You know what I mean? He had like several years in the wilderness, and the big thing was when HBK came back, even though it was a shorter time, was could he still hang? And then that first match proved, oh shit, HBK ain't lost none of it.
No.
And I think it'll be the same as CM Punk. I mean, from what I've already seen as well, he's already started watching Darby Allin matches in preparation for All Out. I think he is obviously going to put the work in. It will remain to see what that first match would be like. Maybe there will be a little bit of ring rust, but I'm confident based off this that he'll come back in, and this will be like, again, his redemption, him finally putting a full stop to his wrestling career on his terms rather than being the guy who just walked away and like crapped on it for like 7 years.
Oh, I've just remembered one of my favourite reactions to Punk's return was Kevin Nash.
What's it?
Kevin Nash tweeted after the debut that OMG, CM Punk thought he was dead. LOL.
well played, Kev.
That was one of my favorite things. Just like Kev, you made me chuckle.
Who here tried to get a T-shirt and couldn't for like 24 hours?
And then I did. Hey.
I did as well.
I did. Yeah. No, I was working at the time when you messaged me. Then I was like, and then you were like, it's down. But I kept trying every second I got, literal seconds. I would just like check and then put it in my pocket because it would like
when
503.
When you put in the group chat that you couldn't get on to get them, I tried straight away, got on.
Well, no,
did you get one though?
Here's
no,
the thing. Eventually, you could get on the website, but then it'd be bullshit. Like you'd get it in your basket, then you'd click on your basket, and then it would be error, whatever. And then even if you got for your payment, it would do that. I got through finally once flawlessly. Put my address in wrong. I missed one number off. Tried to go back and change it. Went back, it still hadn't changed. I had to go back to the start, and then all that bullshittery kept happening again until finally I clicked pay. But it didn't come up with the thank you message. It just came up as error, but I have got the email and the money did come out of my account. So
I also had the email. Money came out of my account. The only thing we have to worry about is
6 months for postage.
Well, 6 months postage. I don't care. I can wait. I'll just forget about it, and then it'll be a nice little surprise around Christmas or my birthday or something. I'll be like, oh, lovely. My only worry is, and I'll be happy either way. But they clearly ran out of the black collar and cuffs, like the black trim. So they've done like just a plain white version, which I don't want as much.
Yeah,
I want the one that he wore.
So here's the thing. Because obviously AEW's got the Pro Wrestling Tee store and their American one, which we checked on first. I'll be back. But then the AEW has got a global store, which is based in Europe, so that would have obviously been quicker. So we checked that one. They only had the plain white T-shirt, and honestly, like without that black trim, it isn't that like.
You just need to get a
you know what I mean? Just colouring it in,
just draw around it.
Yeah. So, flawless debut. What I think we should carry on now is obviously. Maybe this isn't going to be the only major big pop we're going to have in the next couple of weeks, because obviously with the CM Punk rumors came the rumors that Bryan Danielson, as he
Bryan.
So obviously the rumor is that he will be heading to All Elite, and the rumor is he's going to be showing up at the huge New York show. So what do you guys think? Do you think he will be showing up then? Do you think it's a strong possibility now, or
I think he will definitely be showing up, because much like CM Punk, like there'll be so many young talent that he'll want to work with. Like in WWE, he'd done everything. He faced everyone. Like there was no really real stories that he could tell. But like if going to AEW, he's got like the Kennys, the Codys, he's had matches with Cody before, but the Bucks, like all like I'd even love to see Daniel Bryan and Jungle Boy.
Oh yeah, well no,
that'd be a fantastic match.
It's basically similar to what Punk said. He said he's never faced a John Moxley before. In the same vein, Bryan won't have faced the Cody we have today. He won't have faced the cleaner Kenny Omega, you know? So I think that'll be tempting for him.
I don't know if he is going to debut too soon. I think the problem is that there are gonna be a few too many debuts too soon. Because someone's a little dead. Someone's contract runs out on Friday,
yes,
I believe, and he got out of the no compete clause due to the extension that he got. So he's available. Someone else was in the crowd for Rampage.
Has it been confirmed that was Bray? Because I've seen a lot of people say it possibly was.
I don't know if it's been confirmed that it was Bray. However, I think Bray is pretty much he's in talks. He's near enough guaranteed to go. So Bray, Bryan, Adam Cole, Bebe. Those are
Dallas.
3 fucking huge names, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you could have someone like Buddy Murphy, who is now Buddy Matthews, by the way. You could have Buddy Matthews appear. You could have
Ruby Riot's rumored to be going, I think.
Ruby Soho.
Well. Ruby Soho, sorry. Yes. Yeah.
She would be an amazing addition to their women's roster.
I think so. This is my problem is, now you've got 3 shows this week, right? You got Dynamite, Rampage, and you got All Out.
Then, yeah.
If you're gonna do a debut at All Out, you do Adam Cole helping or hindering the Bucks and or Kenny, right?
Yeah,
that makes sense to me. There's a story there. If you're gonna do Daniel Bryan, you maybe have him show up on Rampage again, which really does cement Rampage as the must-see show. But even then, is it just a little bit too much too soon? But if we're gonna do it, even if we're gonna just do a debut every Friday for 6 weeks, it gets a little bit much, I think. So I don't know. I worry about that. Do I think Bryan is showing up this weekend? I honestly think Adam Cole is more likely than Bryan.
Oh no,
yeah. I've just been thinking.
If he is showing up, Bryan will show up on. It's 19th of September. It's the big New York show at the big tennis stadium or whatever it is.
Oh, home field
on Dynamite. Yeah. Sorry, what you
just been thinking there. If it is Adam Cole debuting this weekend, I know it might not be what people want to see, but it could be not helping or hindering Kenny or the Bucks, hindering Punk.
Could be. I mean, I honestly think
a great way for him to debut, taking on like the new veteran, the new big guy.
What that would also
going
do?
After
you know what that would also do, and I think this works, is you would then align Punk, Darby, and Sting. Punk and Darby mainly. I think Darby being this because this is what you should do with all of these people. It's why the Inner Circle are going so well, right? Like it's why Sammy's getting over, who used to be booed and is now cheered to fuck because he's under Jericho's wing. It's why Santana and Ortiz were already liked, but getting more over because you give them this guy to put them under their wing. And I think Darby is already kids show up with half face painted, but you give him Punk as well. I think it works a lot. Yeah, you run the risk of burning out fans too early to the point we expect one every week. Completely agree.
Is that what I see in the chat?
That is I think the risk obviously is burning out, but then the other risk is you can't wait too long. And if they do, I mean, it honestly depends. Tony Khan loves wrestling so much, he's probably willing to pay them a lot of money to just wait, but I don't know if they'd want to.
I think you are right. There would be major burnout having a lot of debuts, and obviously, I think a lot of people worry about what if AEW's roster gets too stacked. I mean, it already feels like it is getting there. When you think about all the different signings that they've made so far and the rumored ones to be coming, but I think you can kind of counteract that because I think the thing is AEW is a lot more free. So even if they've got people signed up and they're not necessarily going to be using them, they will let them go elsewhere. I mean, hence why, they've got the Forbidden Door. They can let them go to New Japan for a little bit and then have them come back when they've got something for them. Let them go work over indie shows. I think it's what a lot of the talent do. So I think the big difference there is obviously WWE, when they've got talent, you're strictly stuck with them. And that could mean you're stuck in catering for the rest of your career because they just wanted you to not go elsewhere. Whereas AEW would be like, okay, we've got you, but we haven't really got anything in mind for you right now. So you can go off and do whatever you want to, and then maybe we'll have something for you later down the line.
Yeah, a point with that is someone like Daniel Bryan, if they have signed him, they could wait a year before bringing him in. Daniel Bryan is not going to depreciate in value to any company. Adam Cole, they probably want to pull the trigger sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I think for some of these names, you need
why it's sort of the middle ground between the Daniel Bryan and the Adam Cole. because like, he's not as globally known sort of as Daniel Bryan, but he's not as like underground as Adam Cole. He's like sort of that middle guy. So like I think if they are going to debut those three guys, it has to be Cole, then Wyatt, then Bryan. And especially like if we're going to have a lot of debuts, they need to pace it well enough, like Garrett said, so you don't get burnout. And if they do that where it's every Friday there's going to be a debut, then everyone's going to shit. Oh, who's going to debut? Well, no one debuted. What the hell's going on? I'm not watching this anymore.
Yeah.
Where wrestling fans were fickle.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I think honestly, I see Bryan maybe just having a little bit of a tour before he goes to AEW.
Yeah,
maybe how I would do it.
Go to Japan, Ring of Honor, wherever.
Yeah, how I would do it is like go to New Japan, and then I'm just gonna say the G1.
Yeah,
but like Bryan in the G1, have him have a run on there, and then just pop up on AEW because he's Daniel Bryan. Just give it a bit of time, let him, do stuff. You could even like tease him a little bit on AEW, where like maybe he could go for the New Japan United States belt. Like North, I don't know if is it North American or United States belt? I can't remember.
It's just United States.
It's US.
Yeah, the US belt. The IWGP US Heavyweight Championship. That's the one. Have him go for that maybe and lose to Tanahashi. I don't think they'd put that on AEW. They could do. I'd love to see some fucking Tanahashi matches on AEW though. Fuck me, that'd be great. He supposedly wants to wrestle at least once a month in America because he wants to build the New Japan brand.
I saw that.
So that could be a good little crossover, that could lead to something Daniel Bryan-y. But no, I don't think he's debuting this weekend. If he is...
Next weekend.
When is All Out?
All Out's 5th of September. It's next weekend.
Oh, it's next weekend. God. I'm just so used to like... Oh, WrestleMania was yesterday. Okay, cool. Next weekend is Battlegrounds and/or Backlash. Sorry, WrestleMania Backlash. And then in a couple weeks, it's a Takeover and another thing.
Yeah.
Like with Daniel Bryan going to New Japan, like that is any wrestling fan's wet dream.
I think it's hardcore wrestling fans' wet dream. It's our wet
that's what I mean. Like,
it's like I'm like soaked right now, like from that. However,
like just not even like just for the caliber of matches he will have, not could have. Like he will have if he goes to New Japan. Like it's matches you haven't seen 1,000 times. Like. Personally, I'll throw this one out there. Like, I think it's everyone's Bryan and Okada in New Japan. Like that. My dream bracket. Bryan could.
While we're going, let's go straight into the fantasy side of things. All
right, fuck it. We're gonna do.
We'll start at Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, and Okada.
We're gonna be talking about the G1 soon, right? So we're gonna talk about Bryan Danielson in AEW. Not going to AEW. So we'll start with not going to AEW first, right? He goes to New Japan. Dream match is Okada. Now, in the G1, usually it's 2 blocks of 8, and it's like a round-robin tournament where everyone wrestles everyone because it's fucking great, and it's a point system. Now, here is my dream, Daniel Bryan A block, right? Now, you want to face Okada? I do too. However, that is going to be in the A and B block final. Right, you make it the final. Make Okada. I'd probably let Okada win or something, unless they really like Daniel Bryan against Shingo Takagi for the championship, or could be Ospreay at the time. Ospreay has said he's not going to enter the G1 because he thinks he's champ, which sucks because I would like him in the G1. But also
Can I
his
ask-
stories in it.
Can I ask, has a foreigner ever won the G1?
Kenny.
Oh, Kenny won it.
Kenny.
Okay. So maybe Bryan
Yeah.
could be the second. I mean, I didn't know it'd be
Kenny
that
won, and
close,
then
but-
Osprey won last year. Did he?
Yeah.
Did Osprey? I think Osprey. No, who won the G1? I'm gonna get up with the G1 winners. I haven't done my prep for the G1 one.
Well,
we're
yeah,
doing.
I mean, we're a bit premature because we're just strictly talking if Bryan's in it,
Yeah.
you know, but I'm sure he'll pop up in
Yeah.
our episodes as well. Well, I just wanted to, I mean, one match I would have loved, but I don't think it'll ever happen, would have been to see Bryan versus Shibata.
Oh,
I'd worry for the health,
amazing.
but it would have been
The headbutt versus the flying headbutt.
I'm not sure where he's wrestling at the minute. He might still be in New Japan, but one match I would love to see with the two guys who own the Wrestling Observer's Best Technical Wrestler category, Daniel Bryan and Zack Sabre Jr.
That's
I still
okay,
love
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I was dead wrong about Osprey. I think he was in, like, I mean, he might have been in the final with Kota. Kota Ibushi won the last two. My dream, much like you're saying, right? My dream bracket, if we have to pick 7 for him to be the 8th, right, is Zack Sabre Jr., because it just writes itself, right? I might even have that be like one of the ones he loses as well, just for a future match where like you really do the build for that, because that could be fucking amazing. Another one I'd have him lose is this guy right here, Toriano. So that is my second pick. Then obviously, like, let's put Kota Ibushi in there, because fucking why not? Tomohiro Ishii, fucking yes. Minoru Suzuki, like Daniel Bryan being beaten half to death and like only just getting him on a roll up or something, or like catching him in a hold. Oh, mwah, mwah.
How moist?
Who else is probably going? You what?
How moist is your seat right now?
I honestly can't tell where the moisture ends or begins. It's like I'm swimming. You know, I am one with the puddle below me. God, fucking yeah. I mean, it's so hard to pick because I want him to face Takagi. I want him to face Naito. I want him to face everyone. That's the difficult. I think those dream matches though are people like Sabre Jr., where it's like you've compared them for so long that, you know, I mean, it's basically the Daniel Bryan award at this point. And now it's basically become the Sabre Jr. award. Fly.
I'm not gonna deny I really want to see him in New Japan, but given their style, I'd be completely worried about him fucking himself up again. You know what I mean?
True. It is a lighter schedule apart from the G1, which still isn't actually like as bad as a house show schedule.
It's just Bryan isn't the kind to take it easy despite his past health things, and I just feel like he would do something really over the top. Like, I'm not necessarily over the top, but he would just do one of their like horrific bumps in it, and then all of a sudden he's just on the shelf again.
I think him, much like when Naito and Ibushi wrestle, I think him and Ibushi would be really, really, really painful to watch. I remember I don't wince much when I watch wrestling because a lot of the moves I've taken, and you know, it's like yeah, it hurts, but whatever. However, a bunch of the times I've watched Ibushi and Naito wrestle, I have just cringed and winced and just like it's just a bit much, and I don't want them to die because I like them, and I don't want that to happen to Bryan.
Well, they did that horrible. Was it them two did the horrible outside spot at this year's Wrestle Kingdom? Try to remember.
They've done a couple.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure when I watched Wrestle Kingdom this year, we brought it up in the pod. They did this horrible looking bump to the outside, and I was just like, "All right, steady on, lads. Calm down."
Yeah. Do you think New Japan and AEW will ever come to a deal and have the G1 be New Japan versus AEW? Not like not having AEW bracket and then a New Japan bracket.
Just have
but
some
it
talent.
completely mixed. Like 8 from AEW, 8 from New Japan, and then just mix them.
I don't think they'd do that. I think they're more likely to want to do crossovers with their New Japan Strong American brand, like because the only title on there is the United States title, right? The US heavyweight. We're this close to getting the never open weight with Jay White, who might be facing Kenny at some point. Who I think should be soon on Impact. I don't think they'd ever do a 50-50 split. I think they'd definitely do like a talent share, like 3 of them or something.
I don't know. I could see them doing what they did with WCW in the early 90s, maybe having one pay-per-view where it is meant to be New Japan versus AEW, but then it's going to depend on their relationship and, again, how the booking would go, because
I think if they're going to do that, it needs to be not competition. Yes, it's AEW versus New Japan, but it's like we're the 2 best wrestling companies in the world. It's all about like just the respect between the companies and the wrestlers, rather than we're better than you, we're better than you. And then I think if they book it like that, they would be able to get away with having 10 matches, 5 for Japan, 5 for AEW.
I think AEW would actually say no as well, solely because of the strain it would take, not only for travel, but because in the G1 you wrestle on the days that you don't have a match. Really, you do like a tag match to set up your match, right? Like even when Moxley went over, he just grabbed one of the young lions who happened to be Red Shoes' son, called Shota Umino, and he just called him, "Hey, shooter," and it was great. Genuinely, I loved it. But that kind of thing is just like, that's 2 months of like 8 people you're not getting back. Which, if any wrestling company is equipped to do that, it's AEW, and just push other people and work on other things. But I think that if they do it, it's going to have to be planned for a very long time. It wouldn't be this year. I think it's more likely, like you say, there'll be a crossover, just like a G1 Supercard had before, where it was basically AEW against New Japan, And looking back at the G1 Supercard, that was a fucking great show.
But if we're gonna have a New Japan AEW show, you talk about fatigue and because if the American company, people who work for AEW are going to Japan, they're going to be knackered. If Japan going to America, they're going to be knackered. You do it somewhere neutral. You do it somewhere where it's not as bad of a time difference for both people. You do it in the UK. You do it at St. James's Park.
Sweet, I can literally just walk to it.
Yeah, I was going to say I can stop at yours. It's fine.
Yeah. All right, you're all welcome. We'll just stay here. We'll do coverage. We'll get press passes. We'll go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we could probably blag as much as we can to try and get press passes. But like, if AEW are coming, we're definitely getting tickets. Same again. If New Japan do another Royal Quest over here, I would definitely go to that again. That was one of the best shows I've ever been to. It was amazing.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll carry on with the New Japan and G1 stuff when we get to those episodes. But for now, I guess we'll just start with CM Punk. Maybe. Okay, we'll start with what like matches and rivalries are you looking forward to? I put out the comment on our story on Instagram, and a lot of people were saying MGF is the big one, which you've already brought up. So I think it goes without saying, like, that would not only just be great in-ring work, but the wall of words building up to whatever they're doing would just be fantastic. Like we kind of talked about before, like, how do you think they could really go around structuring that? Because like I think the big thing would be MJF would use the last 7 years in his promos to like build up the rivalry with Punk, because it's right there. That's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned how worried I am about that kind of story. I think them being as good as they are, 2 of the best talkers ever, And it's mad that you can say that about MJF for as young as he is, that you can just say, like, yeah, this guy will go down as one of the best talkers ever. I don't remember a time that he flubbed, really. No?
Really. Unless it was, I mean, certainly not in AEW. I've not seen a lot of his stuff beforehand, but even in things like MLW, he was on point. So,
yeah, I think what you'd probably do is much like the great labors of Jericho stuff. Is you just, I mean, how many great things has MJF done? Right, he did his like campaign address against Moxley, right? Which was, you know, at the time topical because of the presidential elections, but it didn't. While it obviously was politically swayed, it wasn't exactly like he didn't, you know, do a "We the People" type thing. He didn't do anything like that. It was just him at a podium that kind of seemed presidential. I think he'd probably harp on about the best of the world gimmick.
yeah,
Maybe quite literally just like take issue with that because he's better than you and you know it, and you know you can't be better. You can't be better than the best.
Yeah.
That's the tagline, right? You can't be better than the best is what Punk would say, right? That's it. That's how you start that feud. Simple as, and then you just have them do vile things to each other. I don't know. What would CM Punk do?
throw an ice cream bar at him.
Yeah.
Instead of like Jericho with the champagne gun, Punk's just got like one of those like t-shirt bazookas full of ice cream bars.
I don't really know. It feels like with a lot of MJF stuff, there's been some kind of gimmick match that hasn't taken too much of the focal point. Like we've had the 5 labors of Jericho, which were really just, you know, interesting, fun matches with little gimmicks on them. But the story shone through every time. It was always just MJF being a prick.
Yeah.
And I think no matter what they do, it's just going to come down to MJF being a prick. You know what I would do? The real way I'd book that? I'd wait for Chicago. I'd wait for the next Chicago.
Oh yeah, because the boos MJF would get would be monumental.
Yeah. Like if you
Chicago's against their boy.
It doesn't matter who you've got against Punk in Chicago. They're the heel.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you do.
The biggest baby face on the planet.
I mean, he's obviously going to be the heel wherever he goes, but that's nuclear, right?
Yeah.
If he just fucks people off being himself there, that's what I'd do. I'd wait for Chicago. That's when I'd wait for the build.
Just have him rip on Chicago in the build, and then when he gets there, it'll just be like there will be a riot waiting to go off.
Called it the Windy City, not the Windy City.
I think for me, one rivalry, one feud or one storyline that's right for the picking would be Punk versus Hangman Adam Page. And this could be an interesting little thing to carry on during, when Page just comes back before he gets to Omega. I mean, because the big thing with the story that they've been telling is obviously everyone always points out Hangman's always got a beer, that he's always drunk, even though he still kind of kills it. Depending on how you're going with Punk at the time, I think the story's right there. It's like, well, you know, no wonder you've not been able to beat Omega because you're always drinking, that kind of thing. I think it's kind of right there. And then the two would have a blinding match on top of it.
I don't know. They've been careful, I think, in the majority of Hangman's like drinking arc, where it has been casual. Like he hasn't too often been shown to be, you know, like an evil binge drinker, abusive type.
I think that would be the challenge with it, is not to make it seem like he's a complete alcoholic wreck, but I'd just say that there is the capability there that you've got the straight edge guy against the guy who does like a drink, you know?
Yeah, probably the way that wrestling fans might take that, it would take a while, but you'd have to have CM Punk come in as a straight edge heel again. And Hangman's whole bit is just like, I just want to have a beer after work. And then CM Punk's like, that's why you fucking lose, you bitch. I'm going to shave your head and So you're gonna join my cult or something.
Hey, well, Doc Gallows is already there. That's already 2 out of the 4 members he had for the Straight Edge Society. I'm sure we could get Joey Mercury in.
But he's going to be called Joey Venus.
Yeah.
I think if they're going to do Hangman, but bring the a straight edge versus like a drinker into it, they need to find a clever way to have it as far away from the straight edge society as possible, because that is, like, for me, it's one of the worst story fuck ups in WWE. It was amazing till they realized it was amazing, and then they just sent it to shit.
Yeah. That was like a classic example of Vince being like, "Oh, you're getting over, are you? Well, have some of this."
Because wasn't the Straight Edge Society when Punk just went away and like over a weekend wrote like 8 weeks of TV for himself and just put it on Vince's desk and went, "That's what I'm doing."
Yeah, pretty much. And
then after that, and because I'm pretty sure that was the same thing. Like when Vince pulled him into the office and said, "Oh, I've got a challenge fighter. I'm going to turn you heel." He said, "What's the challenge?" He said, "I'm turning you heel." Like, what's the challenge, Vince? and that's when he went away and wrote the Straight Edge Society. But I think because of that, like, need to just keep it. I'm straight edge, you're not. It's not like it doesn't get culty. It doesn't bring anyone else in. Even if it gets to the point where, see, I think with Punk, like it can't be face versus heel. It's got to be Punk versus wrestler, because Punk blurs the line too much. Like he's not a face, he's not a heel, he's not a tweener. He's Punk. So if you have it just Punk versus wrestler, you can have it like, well, regardless of their face or heel, you can have it like, if at the end of this, like, Punk wins, Punk loses, they go out to a bar and Punk has a non-alcoholic beer with
I think he'll have a Pepsi, I'm afraid.
But he would have a Pepsi, but you know what I mean. He'll sit down and have a drink. Like, they can make it like boxing or MMA, where they will go at each other on the mic, insult each other, but at the end of the day, they'll shake hands at the end.
Yeah.
I think that's what they need to do with Punk, because regardless of what he's, I think at this point he's going to be an Undertaker figure. No matter how hard they try to make the Undertaker heel, he's a face. It'll be the same with Punk. He could drop kick a baby into a vat of acid and then take a shit in it.
I don't think so.
He's still going to be a face.
I for now, while he's hot, right, and just come back, sure. But I think Punk is far more equipped to do whatever he wants with his character and could definitely turn himself heel. And he could do it against Hangman Adam Page, to be honest. Like, he could even do it against Darby on Sunday. They won't, and they better not, but he very much could. I think one of the most interesting things booking-wise, and we've spoken about this for a while, we've spoken about this a lot, especially whenever I bring up New Japan, sometimes even when we bring up NXT. Stables are really fucking important in wrestling. They have... AEW have kind of built themselves in that same New Japan style of just trying to make these stables and build stars inside it and just seeing like what rises to the top. Because no matter what, you can kind of like, you can protect characters in stables, right? You can tell stories, protect characters, give people friends and tag matches time off from work, right? Because in a tag match, you're less likely to get injured than in a singles every week. But CM Punk, as part of a stable, obviously, he'll be the leader of said stable because he's CM Punk. So how does that work in AEW? Like I mentioned earlier, should CM Punk get attacked against Darby Allin or post-match against someone like Adam Cole, then him and Darby makes That seems to fit to me. Just kind of it's CM Punk with stereotypical kid that watched CM Punk. Like, it's like I skateboarded and I like wore a black hoodie when I like CM Punk.
Dads.
Yeah. CM, that's the stable.
Yeah.
2.5 men.
Yeah.
The stable is 2.5 men. Or my emo son. That's what it'll be. Two gay dads and their emo son, the stable. I'm so down for that.
How would you guys how would you guys feel about if that's how they introduced Daniel Bryan? So during his match with Darby, like, say the Elite don't like how much Fawkes is being on Punk, that they attack, and then on Dynamite,
and Bryan saves.
Then on Dynamite, he says, "Right, you just want to play this game. Well, let's play this game. I've got my own partner," and that's how they introduced Bryan. He's like, "You say you're the best. I've got the best."
I mean, it's not a bad debut. It could be worse, but
or if the Bucks attack him and like they set up a tag match, they don't know who his partner's going to be.
A mystery partner is always nice,
because especially with a mystery partner with the.
My internet went weird. What were you saying there?
Oh, so if they use Punk versus Darby to introduce Bryan, like, so say the Bucks and Kenny or whoever attack Punk during the match because they don't like how much attention he's getting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like jealousy, sour grapes, and so the next night on Dynamite they say, right, if you say you're the best, I've brought the best. Or if they set up a tag match for the next pay-per-view, mystery partner, especially with a mystery partner, because like then it could be like, that's how you could bring in Adam Cole, that's how you could bring in Bray Wyatt, that's how you can bring in Daniel Bryan, or someone like who isn't even rumored to be debuting. I think Greg's died.
Oh, he's eyes closed. The dead man. He's back. The dead man is back. The dead man lives. Well, while he
try and see if I can sort this out.
No worries. We'll just continue chatting. I don't know. I think Daniel Bryan name-wise might be too big for that.
I'm just thinking, like, because obviously the whole thing is they're the elite, they're the best.
Sure.
But if you had a team of the best in the world and the GOAT,
I don't know. It almost reminds me too much of like building a team against the Nexus type thing. I can see it. I would not shake a stick at it at all. If I saw Punk, Bryan, and the Bucks in the ring, I'd be fine with it, 100%. I think more stable-wise, if he's going to make it, I see Punk aligning himself with someone like Darby, maybe even Moxley and Kingston. I really see him working with Kingston. I really see him doing some work with Kingston, even if it's just a great match or a little program. I think that would be great. You just give him with some real good talkers. But then I also see them making a little stably stable.
I'd definitely go along with that. I think I'd be really excited to see what you could do with John Moxley, because what he did say in that press thing, I was on that. Anyway, he said like he's never faced a John Moxley before, and that's true. He's only ever faced Dean Ambrose. So I'd be interested to see what the two of them could do. And plus, again, it's another instance of epic promo battles because Moxley's doing tremendous at the moment.
So back on what Jay said, it should, the Bucks come out and be like, you and a tag team partner or whatever you're choosing. I don't think Daniel Bryan is the best choice. He's a bigger name than who I'm going to say, but I think the best choice and a to any mark in the know, the best choice for him to bring out is Chris Hero.
Yes, If they could get Chris Hero in, that would be perfect because that would
him and Chris Hero just makes sense. I mean, like Chris Hero was his pick for the Shield, right?
Yeah.
It just makes sense. Plus, it's Chris fucking Hero.
Say hello. Say hello to everyone.
Violet's back.
What's happening?
That's a debut. That's a debut.
She's gonna be in a stable with Punk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Chris Hero might be my pick if he had to have a partner. Wrestling genius. That's my pick.
100%.
I can't think of anyone I think thematically better unless they've made peace. Because this is another problem with Punk there. I hope it isn't a problem.
A lot of people, but he did say apparently. Well, someone did ask him this in the press thing, and he seemed to indicate it's not going to be that. Maybe not mended bridges, but he's at least spoken to them. You'd think.
I mean, I assume we're both talking about Colt Cabana specifically.
Yeah.
A couple other people here and there. If they make a storyline out of it, sure. As long as Colt Cabana gets some rubs in, that would be cool. If that's his tag team partner, I think I'd be cool with it. It's Cowboys riding again, friends back again. But my pick is probably Chris Hero.
Yeah, I mean he's been a big one of mine for AEW since he left NXT because Chris Hero is just I love him, and I think given their history again, that's like a perfect guy to add either to them being a tag team or whatever stable he does create.
How would you speaking of Chris Hero and Colt Cabana, Punk forming some version of the Shield? Because the Shield was his idea, and he wanted Chris Hero in the Shield, not like a Shield ripoff. But if Punk sat down and thought, right, how can I introduce a new trio?
So maybe
so you could have Chris Hero, Colt Cabana, and then you could either have Punk as the leader, or you could introduce someone else, or a new powerhouse trio that just takes AEW by storm and just decimates everyone.
Yeah, I think that even though a trio is just a trio and everything, I think people would draw ridiculous conclusions at it being just a Shield ripoff, even though it was he was the brainchild originally.
Because there's going to be 5 members.
5 members, that's completely different. That's completely different. Doesn't even matter who the other 2 are. Just push the first 3, but say that there are 2 more. If we were to give him a stable of people, Chris Hero, Eddie Kingston, Darby Allin. Do I want to give him Colt Cabana? Or I'd like him in the Dark Order, to be honest.
I mean, I feel like that could be an interesting way of having the 2 stables feud. Bit of defection always works pretty well. And again, because then you've basically got Punk, Hero, and Colt all in the same group, and they were essentially besties coming up through the indies during Ring of Honor and all that kind of thing. I mean, if you want to go all out for it, why don't you just do essentially the indie darling stable, have it be Punk, Bryan, Hero, and Cabana, the 4 figureheads of Ring of Honor at one point.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I
maybe. It might have sold me on it there. Maybe.
Yeah.
And then Tyler Black jump ship, sure.
Because that could be a good way to sort of make a deal with Ring of Honor. I know Ring of Honor isn't as big as it once was, but Ring of Honor still have some amazing talent, and
I hope they do, just so we can get Danhausen on Dynamite.
I want Warhorse more. I want more Warhorse. I want more Danhausen. I want him to have a match with. I think I most want him to just come and do his shtick and see how well it lands, because I think it would really work. Because it's just ridiculous. He's just the Conan O'Brien of wrestling.
Yeah,
and it works.
It's Conan O'Brien's favorite wrestler, don't you know?
Yeah. Have you also listened to that Conan O'Brien podcast?
Oh yeah.
So who else can you see Punk feuding with?
Well, I think we've done kind of what the minutes. What about Bryan? So, who would you like to see Bryan wrestle?
So I'm sorry, I've just got one more thing to make about
Yeah.
Punk. One more pitch.
Go for it.
He doesn't want to just go up against anyone. He obviously people want him to have that match with Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
That's always the goal. Like everyone's goal is to have that match with Kenny. But he doesn't want to be handed it. Like his moniker is the best in the world. He wants to prove it. He literally goes from the worst ranked person in AEW, and he goes step by step, having the matches, building his ranking, building his status, building his momentum to have that match with Kenny. Probably at next year's, probably a pay-per-view next year. But I think that'd be a good story to tell because he's like, he'll be humble about it. He'll be like, I've been away for a long time. I think I can still do this, but I also want to prove it to myself that I can still do this. And he goes through the ranks.
What's the schedule? Is it All Out Revolution at the end of the year?
No, All Out, Full Gear, and then it's Revolution at the start.
The full Gear, then Revolution.
Yes, yeah.
All Out, Full Gear, Revolution. What's the fourth?
Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing.
So if we try and do it for, why don't we try and do it for a year from now then? Like for All Out next year?
Maybe. It depends how hot they want to strike on a if they're going to do a title run. I still think that the title isn't leaving hands until we see someone like Kota Ibushi come along.
No, I don't think. I think Kenny should have just a long run with the title. That's why I don't want him to lose it straight away, and I think that'll be an even bigger build because you can even get you obviously get Kenny involved. He's starts being a bit like Punk's actually hasn't lost a step. He could be a threat, and not getting paranoid, but being cautious about having a match with Punk, towards the end of this year-long story. You see him backstage, he's watching old Punk matches, obviously not from WWE because they'll never get the rights, but from Ring of Honor or even other matches he's had in AEW. He's there, he's watching it and then acting all embarrassed when he gets caught watching them. Or
they can do a bit where it's just and now I'm going to watch this match from 2011, and it's just footage not found. Just happens to be they go to a video rental store, and there's just a big empty section where there's just nothing there from that time period where he left wrestling.
And then just says, okay, I'm going to go buy a pair of Nikes.
But I think that could be a good story of Punk being humble about who he is, who wanting to re-earn the moniker of being the best in the world.
I think you're right. I think that could be right for the picking. I mean, so I guess going to transition between the two. Do you think we'll see either Punk and or Bryan having a run with the AEW title?
Yeah,
I think
eventually,
Punk rather than Bryan. Well, because Bryan said he's only got a couple of years left in him, and I know there's only been 3 champions at this point, but all the title reigns have been fairly long.
Yeah, I think it looks like Omega's going to be on his way to being the longest, but yeah, both Jericho and Moxley had a decent little run with the belt. So I think that's kind of what AEW's about. They're about having people have long runs. It's not about just hot shotting the belt around. They kind of do make it feel like it's a worthy prize.
Shout Flair. What?
I mean, I could maybe see definitely Punk having a run of it because it seems like he's going to be. I mean, like I say, maybe he's going to be there a bit longer. Maybe Bryan could have a good run with the TNT. Maybe he could be the one to take it from Miro.
CM Punk and Stephen Amell
from the
they
show
both
Heels.
Look so happy.
We'll do a review of Heels, by the way. We'll do a watch through. just to throw that out, because that's also something I wanted to bring up as well. Is he does have eyes for TV and movies still, and I do genuinely think he's actually quite a good talent. What was he in? The Woman on the Third Floor or something? The horror film.
I still
Girl
need
on
to
the
see
Third
that.
Floor.
Girl on
It's
the Third
really
Floor.
good.
It's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad. I think honestly, part of the reason, people in the dub get some connections is because there are some connections in the WWE, and when this man has had to go through a fuck ton of a lot of people think he's just been off, right? Like he's just left wrestling and that was it.
Yeah.
The legal battles ended like 6 months ago. That's when it ended. He's had 6 months really to finally like calm and fall back into it, and it's probably been a difficult time to also be acting and to try and figure out all life stuff and whatnot. So he might find more of a love for acting, might go back to the UFC. I don't think so, but he's got a gig pretty much wherever he wants it. Hell, he could go back to fucking, what was that shitty show on FS1?
Raw.
Yeah, the shittier, no, the better one, the one where they talked about Raw, but not Raw talk or talking smack. Backstage, yeah.
Interesting thing, because a lot of people post about it. Could you see his wife following him to AEW? Do you think AJ Lee could get the itch to go back in the ring?
I think if AJ's got the same thing as Punk, where she wants to face all these like younger talent that she hasn't faced before, I think she'd rather go back to WWE. Like AJ and Charlotte, AJ Sasha, AJ Becky, Bayley, Bianca Belair, Nikki Cross. Like, I still think like even though WWE is so bad at the moment, their women's division is still the best.
I think the blood's too bad for anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
I don't know. She's still friends with a lot of them.
Yeah, with the wrestlers, sure, that's not the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just what
But
would happen.
I think if they get a chance to get AJ back, she could have their pants down for a contract.
Yeah, but the second she's under one,
It'll be like
okay. CM Punk has had how many years? How many years of bad blood has CM Punk had with WWE? Right. All Rusev did was cut his fucking hair, and they made him a cuck live on TV.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see it going too well, unfortunately. And I think maybe there are right now more potential wrestlers in WWE. They should have a strong women's division, but there's only like 6 women wrestlers on SmackDown, for example. But I think with people like Ruby Soho going to AEW, you've got Britt, Nyla, Shida, Riho, all of these talents over there. I honestly think it's still a better place. I think it would still be better for her.
So sorry, I've just looked, Garrett. I've just looked at your box, and it looks like Stephen Amell and CM Punk are really happy to meet you, and you're just indifferent.
Fans, am I right?
That's what it looks like. It looks like they look like you're the superstar, and you just like.
It's like they've come up to me and asked me to do this, and I'm like,
I wasn't even in the clique.
Did I tell you about the time I met Marty Skull?
I know this.
I have not heard this story.
Well, we're at the Coronet Theatre, which is now closed down. We're there for Ultimo Battle, which is a Lucha Forever show. Very good show. We go in. It's like one of my first shows, especially one where, because I've been to some WWE shows, and at WWE shows, The Undertaker isn't there selling his merch. So there are a bunch of tables there. Me and Scott have like really good front row getting early tickets. And we get there, and there's just a guy at the table, and I'm like, oh, Marty Skull merch. I like Marty Skull at the time. things have happened. I like my skin time. I picked up a shirt and I looked up and it's just him. And I was like, oh, hello. And we had a nice back and forth. And we were just like, didn't want it. We play things cool. I don't ask people for a photograph. I don't really get star shocked. What's the word? Starstruck. But then he's like, oh, do you want a photo? I was like, oh, yeah, sure. And then I do this. And then he goes like, yeah, I can't do that. And I'm like, why? And he was like, not allowed. And this is around the time that's all he said to me. And then he just didn't like, he ignored me past that. And I still have a photo of me doing this like a fucking mark, because I felt like you can see it in my body language as well. He'd like just said it, and I was like,
What is with us going to shows and just completely embarrassing ourselves in front of the rest?
God, we could do a whole anthology of just us fucking up.
I mean, you haven't. Me and Garrett have.
We'll bring you to one, and you will just like by essence of us being with you, you will make an ass out of yourself in front of someone. It will be the night that Triple H comes out on Progress, and you'll just I don't know, like fucking. I can't even think of what we do wrong, but we do it wrong.
I'll describe it like this. Me and Garrett are the living embodiment of the bit on Brooklyn Nine-Nine where Jake keeps pantsing the Brooklyn Knicks. That's what we are at wrestling shows. We just keep meeting these people we adore and just embarrassing ourselves in some kind of fashion.
Yeah. The closest I've got to embarrassing myself was when I wanted a Jordan Devlin t-shirt. And I was like, I don't know how I go about. That was at Newcastle, Progress Newcastle.
Yeah.
Oh, so you had the exact same thing that we had then, where I went up and I asked Jordan Devlin if I could buy a Haskins t-shirt, and he was like, "No, that's Haskins," and then he just like turned away.
No, I was talking to Jordan Devlin. I wanted a Jordan Devlin t-shirt, but I didn't know like what the protocol was. I didn't know whether he like had a bit of banter first. I just went, "Can I have that one?"
I hate that because it's just like I don't want to waste their time, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just like there's a show that you're about to do and I haven't exactly paid for a meet and greet. I'm just kind of like, I'd like to buy a shirt from you and support you, but I don't want to seem like a prick. So I don't just be like, that one. Yeah. Thanks.
Well,
I just want to be like,
but then after that.
Sorry, some of them are approachable like that. But then other ones just really aren't. Like with that same show, I had some good banter with Paul Robinson and told him about how he slapped me in the face. That was fun. David Starr, we had a nice build back and forth. Again, things have happened since. That
same Lucha Forever show was the show where me and Scott were front row. Moose was wrestling someone, and he threw a guy into our guardrail, like hit, and the guardrail like banged into us. And I'm holding my drink, and then Moose goes, "Hey, give me your beer," and I'm like, yeah, okay, here you go, Moose. And I was about to go like, "No, it's cider," and he drinks it, all right, and I swear to God, he's just like, and I can't remember exactly what he does. I think he just throws it at the other guy, and just I remember it's like, oh no, I've upset Moose. I've upset Moose.
After I had my little faux pas with Jordan Devlin, if it was a faux pas, after his match, he was so I think his match was second to last, or maybe like just before that.
No, his was before the break.
Oh yeah, but
it was him and Ilya.
Yeah. But he came back to his merch table, but he wasn't looking at his merch table. He was watching whatever match was going on at the time, and I was stood at the barrier and next to him. I didn't realize. I looked over. I was like, I'm Jordan Devlin.
Oh, hey.
So I just started having a bit of banter with him, like saying like how much like I loved his match, and I didn't mention that he reminded me of Mini Finn because I thought I'd get killed.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been happy about that. I mean, the only faux pas of that show for both of us, but it wasn't really faux pas. We were just annoyed was how. What's her name was charging £5 for a selfie.
Oh yeah, that was a bit shit. Like, I can't remember her name. She was having a match with
you know what? Don't remember her name. Doesn't deserve any kind of It's
so
doesn't deserve anything.
every other wrestler was like, yeah, fine, no problem, take a picture. And she was like, oh yeah, £5. I'm just like, we'll leave it.
So like the women's match was actually one of the better matches on that card. It was Candy Floss against, I can't remember who her opponent was.
Holly Dead or something like that.
Maybe something like that.
Holly Dead rings a bell. I think it might be Holly Dead.
So I was going to go and ask them like for a picture like of both of them at the same time, but someone else had gone and asked her for a picture before and said, "Oh yeah, £5." And I was like, "I'm not paying a £5." Like, so I went and asked Candy Floss for a photo, and she was like, "Oh yeah, have a photo."
Yeah, it was Holly Dead. I'm just pulling a picture up now.
I think that's because like maybe they do just charge for photos in America.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems a bit. That just seems probably rude, especially when it's like on your phone in your camera, unless they had a professional setup. Yeah.
Yeah, that was her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Holly Dead. Yeah, that's who it was.
We're getting very sidetracked here.
I was going to say, we'll bring it right
How would we book our fan interaction with CM Punk at his merch table? Well, he would say, "Hold on, I need a tag team partner, and you look like just the guy." And then he'd drag me on, and then my music would come out, and everyone would cheer. And what were we talking about? Oh, right. How we would book. Right. We're on Daniel Bryan.
Bryan Danielson. Who's your dream opponent?
Let's fly through a couple. Obviously, Kenny Omega again, like how we already mentioned for Punk. I think that kind of goes without saying. Because if you can look back, they have wrestled before. They had a really fun, probably like a bit like a comedy match. I think some indie promotion before Bryan took off with WWE. So again, it's one of those situations where he's fought that Kenny Omega. He hasn't fought the Cleaner, and there'd be plenty there for it. What's his name? Is it Daniel Garcia? He's been on Dynamite a lot recently. Yeah, he had the main event match on Rampage with Moxley.
Sure.
And that could be a good one right there.
Like, again, I'm going to say MJF.
MJF for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is great.
I think Bryan could do some great work with Orange Cassidy. I think Bryan can do some really good work.
So I didn't bring this up. I think Orange Cassidy would be brilliant for CM Punk, because imagine Punk just cutting into a massive promo and Cassidy just doesn't say a word. Just does his little thumb up.
Yeah, but I don't...
See, I think Orange Cassidy, if he's going to do a promo against Punk and stay in character, like, he's got to have the microphone. Punk's just laid into him for like a couple of minutes, and Orange Cassidy just goes...
Yeah, exactly.
Just
doesn't say anything. It's just nods and
yeah.
Just like gets the mic, and then just like puts it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Rolls out, done. Perfect. Easy as. Sure, why not? I'd
actually love to see Punk in that kind of match with Orange Cassidy, like how Punk would put together
a comedy match. Essentially.
Yeah, because Punk, I don't think I've seen Punk do a comedy match.
We've seen him do kind of funny stuff. But
not like an all-out comedy match.
Yeah. Well, Jace,
no,
you can even wear my blazer.
You know what? I don't think it would work as an all-out comedy match as well as just Orange Cassidy doing what Orange Cassidy does best, where he, because what people don't really understand about the character is he lures you in and rolls you up, right? That's the character, is he gets you cocky. And I think CM Punk can do cocky. I think CM Punk can do, letting your guard down. And that's how it could be a really good match. And then, technical-wise, just Orange Cassidy just throwing these roll-ups out of nowhere, turning the GTS into a crucifix bomb, all of this kind of thing. Could make an easily good match, where I don't think you play it like a comedy match. It's not like Toriano coming out or Michael Nakazawa. I don't know. I think it would work. I think Bryan Danielson doing a full comedy match would be more interesting than CM Punk doing a full comedy match. I think Bryan Danielson could definitely do a better one.
Yeah, well, I think, like I was saying, Punk is good at being funny, but I think Bryan is more there at that, because like when you look at the stuff like Team Hell No, he really can go into comedy, and again on his indie run before WWE, he used to do quite a lot of it as well. So I think you're right. I think Cassidy would be a much better fit because it's right there. Like essentially, it doesn't necessarily be a comedy match. It could be a bit like the Anti-Fun Police versus Team Tremendous match that we like, the tag team match. Starts off with comedy shenanigans, but then by the second half, it's just pure wrestling.
Exactly. Yeah, I think obviously CM Punk could do a comedy match. I just don't think it fits for the character as well.
No.
So yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else would like to see Danielson fight?
One for both of them, Punk and Bryan. Pac.
Yeah.
Sure. Pac. Sure. Now that he's the bastard, like, get that match booked.
War Geordie Pac.
War Geordie Pac. More Geordie Nev. I
tried to explain Pac to Hats the other day, and she was just like, I don't care.
I mean, I would like to see Andrade.
Not Pac the wrestler, just why, like, we say War Geordie Pac.
War Geordie Pac.
She's like, I don't care. It's horrible being in a relationship with someone who does not like wrestling.
Have you sat her down and watched the pay-per-view yet?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
She will refuse.
Just say you're gonna watch Love Actually and then turn on All Out.
No, about 3 months ago, like, I said to her, like, if you try and get into wrestling, like, even not full pay-per-view, I'll just show you some matches or some, like, or a story that's going on, because WWE have the feud series, don't they? If I remember that right, they'll have it so it's like the history of a feud between two people.
Yeah.
I'll try and get into something you like, and somehow we've got it to be in. Like, I'll choose a TV series, we'll watch a season of that. Then she'll choose a TV series and we'll watch a season of that. So my choice, I try to choose something that I hadn't seen before, that I wanted to see. So I chose Bates Motel.
Sure.
Obviously the sequel, the prequel to Psycho. And then she's chose Pretty Little Liars. So that's what we're currently watching. Pretty Little Liars. And I'm really enjoying it.
Well, I mean, you could try an entire season of Raw. They last quite a while, I'm told. When does this one season of Raw end?
When Vince sells...
Wasn't that whole thing like a year ago? They were like, we're on season 2 of Raw. I swear at one point, like, Stephanie or someone legitimately said, like, we are now on season 2 or whatever.
Don't every year they have like a Raw special and say, oh, it's the season premiere of Raw.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when they said the 25th anniversary, and it was not the 25th anniversary. Because they called it like Raw 25, right? And it was technically not the 25th anniversary. It was the 24th anniversary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's not how anniversaries work.
WrestleMania, the 25th, well, it was WrestleMania 25, but they booked it as the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania.
That's not how that works. Not how that works. The first time you do something is not the anniversary of it happening. Good. Glad we could clear that up. The same reason your child doesn't come out born 1 year old.
Unless you're in Asia, unless you're in Korea.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, in Korea, I think both North and South, they start like the day you're born is 1, and then everyone gets a year older on New Year's Day.
Oh, I do know that. Yeah, I do know that. Yeah.
So you could literally be born on the 31st of December,
and you're 2 years old.
And then the next day you're 2.
I mean, I think that's a good place to leave it if you want, lads.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
I was going to go into like how do they do their school systems, but I don't care. I don't care.
All right, then. Well, if you want to come join us again for non-wrestling talk on this wrestling podcast, follow us at the social media channels. So we're on the Bearhug Club podcast at Facebook and YouTube, Bearhug Club Pod on Instagram, and Bearhug Club on Twitter. And you can find us on the website, which is bearhugpod.wixsite.com/bearhugclouds. Next week, we're going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into storylines, in particular looking at the controversial side of them. But until then, take care, everyone. Goodbye.